There's something different about Metroid. Something awe-inspiring. Something mesmerizing. Something triumphant. This series about a bounty hunter alone in alien worlds, overcoming perilous odds and monstrous opponents, invokes such a personal connection to me and many others. And there's a certain magic within the series that sets it apart from anything else. A certain magic that leaves you in awe. But what is that magic? What's so special about Metroid that has caused it to remain my favorite series after so many years? Why do we love Metroid? On my quest to answer this question, I asked my audience and friends the very same thing, and amongst the varied responses arose some consistent themes that confirmed my initial beliefs. There is plenty to love about Metroid, including the immersive atmosphere, the emphasis on sequence breaking and speedrunning, the interwoven map design, and so on. But there are some themes that underline all of these characteristics and make them distinctly Metroid. I was only a child when I first played a Metroid game. At this point in time, I found the experience overwhelming and terrifying. The atmosphere was daunting and the enemies were grotesque and erratic. It scared me to such an extent that I shut the game off after only an hour. But when I came back several years later, overcame these challenges and continued my playthrough, I began to feel a sense of empowerment. As I became more competent with my abilities, there was a sense of feedback from the game, with the rate at which Samus grew in firepower. When I later returned to that first area that gave me so much trouble, these enemies were completely outclassed by my newfound strength. This is one of the key themes of Metroid. Growth. The same reason that Samus always seems to start with a paltry arsenal is the same reason that many encounters in Metroid are often daunting and overwhelming. It provides a feeling of oppression, which in turn leads to empowerment as you overcome these challenges and grow in strength, in the form of upgrades in game, but also because of your skill. Playing through a Metroid game is a journey about growth, as you begin underpowered with a single energy tank and little to no abilities to speak of, and by the end, you become an unstoppable force of nature. Enemies and areas will provide a struggle when you first meet them, but as you become stronger and backtrack into these environments, these challenges become trivial annoyances. During the first portion of Metroid Prime 2, one creature which is heralded as particularly dangerous is the Warrior Ing. A large grotesque foe built up throughout the first third of the game, with your first encounter being treated almost like a boss battle. But before long, these enemies become completely disposable, as you take on hordes of the creatures at once and dispose of them without difficulty. These kinds of interactions you have with enemies, puzzles, and the environment are used to illuminate your growth and stand as reference points, providing you with a feeling of accomplishment as you outgrow these challenges. And this feeling of growth wouldn't be complete without the oppressive nature these challenges initially provide. Encounters are often daunting, as you face off against gargantuan enemies or traverse deadly terrain. This elevates the sense of achievement as you look back on these challenges you overcame that ultimately made you stronger. By the end of a Metroid game, you're a powerful force of nature, and the games communicate very clearly that it's you who overcame these impossible odds and became that force of nature, who lives up to the name of Samus Aran. On my first playthrough of Metroid Prime 3 Corruption many years ago, I distinctly remember a moment that remained clear in my mind ever since. Upon reaching the planet Brio, Samus has the task of destroying a Leviathan seed that is corrupting the planet and finding her fellow bounty hunter, Rundus, who recently disappeared. During my exploration of the planet, I spotted the famed bounty hunter, who fled out of sight the second I spotted him, but this happened with no fanfare outside of a cutscene and left me excited with dozens of questions, as though I had discovered something on my own on accident. This is something that makes Metroid stand apart. Subtlety. The art of immersion is often best described by the phrase, less is more. It's always struck me as remarkable how a sci-fi epic of the grandest scale can retain such a sense of subtlety, a sense of restraint that makes the environment and world more immersive and alive. And it's not broadcasted to you, but instead left for you to uncover. Metroid environments are impressively dense, full of lore, breathtaking scenery, and optional upgrades to discover. But what elevates these things is the level of restraint the series exerts. The games don't feel a requirement to show you the luscious parts of the world you haven't explored, because they need no introduction. These details can stand on their own, and Metroid would much rather leave you to appreciate these things as much as you like, than direct your attention to them, be it an upgrade you missed, captivating bits of lore, or a stunning view of the scenery. A sense of organic discovery is often ruined when the game directs your attention to it, to prevent you from missing it, in the form of excessive cutscenes or exposition. The subtlety also extends to the main narrative of Metroid games. The majority of cutscenes in Metroid are concise and purely for essential purposes, like introducing a new area, boss battle, or providing the necessary amount of detail and context for the narrative to move forward. The games often use the smallest amount of fanfare possible, and instead opt for more enticing and subtle means of fleshing out the world and narrative, like optional scan logs, environmental details, and much more. With these subtle methods, Metroid can do a lot with very little, like paint an eerie picture of the Chozo's last days on Talon 4 through scan logs in Metroid Prime, or create a sense of fear and anxiety in Metroid Fusion through the use of simple shadows and sounds in the background. This subtlety leaves you with a world that's just begging to be uncovered and explored, allowing you to piece the world together on your own. In the same way that solving a puzzle on your own is satisfying, uncovering details about the narrative creates a similar feeling of satisfaction, which makes every playthrough that much more enthralling and exciting, as there's an abundance of details for you to uncover and questions to answer. This restraint also allows the few short moments of cinematic spectacle to feel that much more triumphant, mesmerizing, or terrifying, because it's a matter of quality and not quantity. Spectacle in Metroid is used sparingly, and when it is used, it feels earned. A perfect example of this is at the end of Metroid Prime 2. After defeating a terrifying and seemingly unstoppable species, the Ing, and saving the race of the Luminoff from extinction, Samus departs without a word, and only a single gesture. The game achieves such a powerful feeling with so little, and this form of restraint elevates these moments of spectacle. It achieves as much as possible with the least possible, made powerful not by the number of words said or the length of the cutscene, but through the art of subtlety. During my most recent playthrough of Metroid Zero Mission, I encountered a notable roadblock that made me critically think about how to proceed. Upon reaching Ridley's domain, I soon exhausted all possible routes to progress and was left stuck. The way forward seemed inaccessible, locked behind a stone wall. I experimented with my weapons and scoured the small terrain I had explored so far. Eventually, I noticed a vertical entrance into this blockaded area. I started to examine the other regions above and then took the elevator, and sure enough, I found another inconspicuous route down to Ridley's domain, leading into the previously inaccessible area. This provided me with a feeling of proficiency, as the game presented me with a blockade and required me to do some creative and holistic thinking to get past it. This is the third theme present all throughout the Metroid series: respect. The very nature of a Metroidvania is the emphasis on exploration and finding the way forward, by examining the world and what new paths have opened to you. These new openings can require an upgrade you obtained recently or some critical examination of the map. This is largely left to you to figure out, because the game has enough respect to let you accomplish this on your own. Metroid worlds are akin to a giant interwoven Zelda dungeon, but as you play, more and more options of exploration become available to you, and you'll eventually be left alone to explore the world to figure out where you can and can't go. The games leave the navigation up to your intuition and judgment, and while Metroid often provides you with a variety of tools, including a detailed map and the occasional waypoint marker, most of the hard work is on your shoulders. Any points of direction are only to point to your destination, as the real challenge comes from navigating your way there. The feeling of traversing the map and finding the right path can be overwhelming, but this responsibility is a great form of respect that the game gives you, as it trusts you to navigate this complicated, interwoven terrain on your own. In the same way that Metroid opts to use minimal fanfare in cutscenes, a similar philosophy of restraint also applies to the gameplay, providing you with only what's necessary to push you in the right direction. The challenge of becoming stumped and eventually finding a new pathway, as it's you who overcame these roadblocks, not the game showing you the way to overcome them. Metroid respects you enough to leave you to navigate the world, trusting you to use your intuition to find a way to move forward. The Metroid series is special to a lot of people, for a lot of different reasons. It's a series with consistently high reception amongst fans and critics alike. A series that also seems to have lost sight of its fundamental themes during the past decade. As we move into what seems to be a new golden age for the series, my one hope is that Nintendo doesn't overlook what makes the series truly special: the themes of growth, subtlety, and respect. I do believe Metroid stands apart from Nintendo's other lineups, because of the emphasis on these mature themes of design that establishes a personal relationship with the player, which few other games can replicate. Themes that act as the cornerstone for the best games in the series, and allow people to experience games that provide feelings of empowerment, discovery, and independence. These themes are what makes Metroid special, and why countless designers are so inspired by the series. This is why we love Metroid.